Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another dose of your weekly rundown. Of course, joined in with me as always, my co-host, the Miami Hurricanes' own Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
Good. It's funny that you say that because I got my shirt on today, man. I'm out
Oh,
here repping.
there we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Let's dumb that down a little bit. So, the richest contract in sports history, Patrick Mahomes signed an extension deal with incentives included that's worth up to $503 million. That's right, $500 million. The Super Bowl, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes, raking in the dough over there. It's big news. We all knew that he was going to get paid handsomely. We all knew he was gonna reset the quarterback market. Couple things here. It begs the question when you think of a Deshaun Watson, a Lamar Jackson, what are these guys going to be commanding in the future? I don't think they'll be commanding the money that he just got, but it should be. It's tough to say because it won't be close, but it should be something pretty high. Now, a couple conversations we can have here. One, as of right now, that the core group of guys in Kansas City, Tyreek Hill, and the rest of those guys, Travis Kelce, they're all locked up. But when those contracts are up, and you're trying to bring in more pieces to keep that defense afloat, you're paying your quarterback about 40 plus million a season. Do you think that they'll be able to sustain the success with the amount of money that they're paying Patrick Mahomes moving forward?
I think that's a great question. I think that's what's kind of on everyone's mind. I've seen a lot of people did bring up that maybe they can kind of go back and restructure the deal kind of later on. So maybe that's the thing that's on the table that they're thinking about, where they can kind of come back, restructure the deal, maybe make it more cap friendly or something like that. So I think they might try to rely on their offense. So they're kind of, like you said, they kind of got those guys locked up. I think when all those contracts kind of come up, it'll be hard for them to kind of maybe keep the whole team together, but they probably we got them locked up for now. So they're going to probably rely on their offense and then try to win a couple more. And then maybe they'll be satisfied with kind of what they got out of the dynasty if it becomes one.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing too is when you talk about the success of a team, drafting also comes into play. They've clearly done a pretty good job drafting the guys that they've brought in. They have a very good receiving recorder to complement what they have at quarterback. So moving forward, I think that's also because the big thing here is keeping guys in or trying to bring guys in. I still feel like you have good drafts. You can get guys that come and get the ground running. We watched the Giants, Darius Slayton, the season, a 5th round pick in the season that he had. You can find guys, but like this past draft, how deep of a receiver draft was that? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's going to be a huge thing in their success moving forward. But I really don't. I don't think it's going to hurt the Kansas City Chiefs too much with Patrick Mahomes' contract. I think he's that good. I used to say Aaron Rodgers was the most talented quarterback, the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen in my life. I don't say that anymore. I think Patrick Mahomes is the most talented thrower of that dude does things I've never seen before. He does things I've never seen Aaron Rodgers do before. He can throw from the pocket. He can move when he needs to, scramble, the whole nine. And he just flat out makes guys better. So I don't think it's going to hinder their success too much. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like you said, when you have a talent like that, to lock him up for 10 years was I think kind of surprising. The 10-year contract kind of threw me off. I thought maybe usually is like 4-year contracts and stuff like that. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think it's a no-brainer to have the talent like that. You lock him up and keep him there. And like we said, people are kind of saying that maybe they can go back and maybe restructure the deal. So if it's something along those terms, I think that the deal's a no-brainer, like you said, just with him being so talented. And you kind of take him, lock him down, and kind of figure everything else out around him.
Yeah, absolutely. The other news in the NFL world that came out today, as you guys see, we're recording on a Monday as opposed to the usual Sunday. The Washington football team, that's what we'll go with, is changing that long nickname that they've had for years now, the Redskins. That'd be the last time you hear me say that, by the way. I've never been in favor of putting that out there. But they're after a thorough review of the name. The name that's been called into question for years, mind you. It's been brought up many times about how they should change that name of the team. They will now change the nickname. Exactly what are they gonna call themselves? Still not too sure. I know Dwayne. I've seen Red Wolves. I think Dwayne Haskins, who's the quarterback over there, is saying maybe the Red Rovers, I believe it was. So I didn't really understand why you had to have a thorough investigation to change this name. It's kind of pretty clear as to why you would need to change this name. Also, in the same city, the Washington Wizards were at one point were called the Washington Bullets. They changed that name because of the violence that was going on in the city and everything. So it's just I can't understand why you would keep that name and why you fought so long to keep it. Literally, money talks. The FedEx, as well as other investors like Nike, who actually took Washington's apparel off of their website. We're like, you got to change the name or else. And then finally, it's like, all right, we're gonna have this thorough investigation, and then, okay, now all of a sudden we see that we have to change the name.
Yeah, I think the thorough investigation thing is just something that they have to kind of put there to save themselves. Like you said, it kind of doesn't make sense because people have been calling for this name to be changed for years now. So it's not something that kind of just popped up, but it's something that like the sponsors and stuff kind of started taking seriously in light of everything that's kind of been going on. So that they kind of got forced into doing it after their pockets got hit a little bit. So I think that just thorough investigation kind of thing is just something they put there to kind of save themselves. But like you said, it just doesn't make sense because it's something that's been called for to be changed for years now. But yeah, I totally agree. I don't know what they're going to call themselves. I think it'd be interesting to see what they do. I've seen a lot of people throwing names out there. Stephen A. Smith said something about the Washington Warriors, which I think kind of sounds weird. Maybe because it's because of Golden State or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to call themselves from here. I think maybe they should kind of listen to the fans from here, see what the fans want, maybe what the community wants over there, and kind of go from there.
And I've heard them say a lot of like names, like I said earlier, Red Wolves or Red Rovers. I think you should probably get rid of any resemblance to what the name originally was completely. Just completely cut ties. I don't think there's really even a point to have something of resemblance to that there.
Yeah, I think it's time for a whole new fresh start, especially with him not really wanting to change the name and kind of holding on to that name as long as he can. I think he might try to stay with the same colorway and stuff, so you can kind of still maybe keep those same fans or try to keep the same merch and kind of keep it the same. But I think it's time for a new start. I think no one really wanted the name and stuff like that, so now that it's gone, just a new start, maybe a new colorway and everything, just fresh start over there. I think that'd be the best.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get into the NBA portion of this, I did want to get into what happened over the weekend. Saturday night, we had UFC 251, Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman in the main event for the title. The co-main event was Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski. A lot of good fights here. It was a really good card on paper when you looked at it. The main card, anyway, from top to bottom. You had excuse me, you had Thug Rose on there as well as Paige Van Zandt. Just a bunch of good fights as a whole. Jose Aldo fought on this card for the belt. He ended up losing. But like when I came into it saying I'm really excited about this event. And when I watched it, I don't know if it was the fact that there's no fans in there. When you have that fan atmosphere, how crazy it can get. Maybe it was that. I'm still not too sure. I just didn't come away watching these fights. I didn't come away as excited as I was expecting. That's not to say that the fights were bad. I don't think the fights were necessarily bad. I just didn't get that excitement that I usually get. And it's weird because I've had no problem with the way the UFC has done these fights so far. And this was the first fight in Fight Island. But I don't know. I just didn't come away with that. You know, number one, the Volkanovski Holloway fight. I've seen a lot of people saying they thought Max Holloway got robbed. I don't necessarily agree with that. Watching that fight, I thought Max came in gunslinging. I gave him the first 2 rounds. The third round, I thought it could have went either way. And when you're the champ, you usually get the benefit of the doubt there. And then the last 2 rounds I gave to Volkanovski. So when you take that into account, I have no problem with them giving that win to Volkanovski. Usually I'm not in favor of running it back a third time straight, but I wouldn't mind seeing those two fight a third time straight. I think Max Holloway made some great adjustments from the first fight where he really got beat up a bit. Even though people talk about how he outlanded Volkanovski in the first fight in striking, but you sit there and watch that fight, Volkanovski really put it on him. And this last fight really wasn't the case, but that's number one there. Watching that fight, I don't agree with people saying that he got robbed, but just taking those things into consideration. And in the main event, there was a few people that I know personally that were I had no dog in the fight. I take this journalist thing pretty seriously. Put my hat on. I try to stay as objective as possible. So I didn't have a pick. I wasn't rooting for anybody. I think Kamaru Usman did what he had to do. Number one, he dominated the fight. I feel like he did what he had to do, though. He wasn't going to stand in the middle and trade punches with a guy who's just a brawler, a straight-up fighter. This is a guy that's been taking fights in backyards back in the day when they were doing the backyard fights with Kimbo Slice. So I had no problem with him, getting his wrestling going. He was getting to Masvidal's legs at will. And he completely dominated the fight. Now, with that being said, I had said this before, and I remained consistent with it. I wouldn't mind them running it back. I know it was a dominating performance by Kamaru Usman. But, 6 days notice, 20 pounds on 6 days notice. And it's symbolic, by the way, because like I said, we're talking about a guy who would go fight somebody on a phone call's notice. And on a 6 days notice, he's fighting for a title. So I wouldn't mind him being able to see him on a full camp, being able to fight Kamaru Usman. I don't know if the decision, I believe he'd make the adjustments. He's got a good group of guys where he's at, a lot of wrestling backgrounds. He's training with Bo Nickel, Cody Law, 2 Penn State wrestlers. Bo Nickel's a multiple-time national champ. Steve Mako's in that gym, another multiple-time national champ in his camp. So the wrestling you would think would be there for him. And I do believe he'll be able to make the adjustments, but I just don't know exactly how much adjustments he'll be able to make to beat Kamaru Usman. That dude he's just legit.
Yeah, definitely. I personally didn't get to see the fights, but just some of to reiterate some things you said, I did see people who were, after the fight, kind of wasn't, I guess, as excited about the fights that were going on. I did hear the girls kind of put on the show, but the couple of people I did talk to and seen, they said they wasn't kind of, I guess, a little upset with the show and the just the cards in general. But yeah, it's kind of all I have to say about it.
Right, and to move on from there. The NBA, man, we always talking about the NBA because in a few weeks we're back, and big news hit today. More positive coronavirus tests. Rashawn Holmes of the Sacramento Kings tested positive about 2 days ago because it's a 10-day quarantine. So he's got 8 days of quarantine left.
Did he test positive? I thought he just left out of his room. He
did not test positive. You're right. It's precautionary. He left. He stepped over the lines of the Disney resort to go pick up food. And it's funny that I say this because he was one of the people saying he had no problem with the food over there in Disney, and he wanted to say thank you, but he's over here getting Uber Eats. So there's that. Anyway, he's somebody that they're doing precautionary things on. Other players as well. They're trying to keep it to you got to stay under 5%, I believe. to be able to make this community work. So they're still under 5% in the positive test rate out of 300 plus players. Now, the big name that we're going to talk about here that tested positive was Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, as well as his teammate James Harden, did not travel with the Houston Rockets to the bubble city in Orlando. They remained where they're at. Russ came out today and said that he has tested positive. Pretty much he's asymptomatic. He's feeling fine, and the plan is for him to head out there. Now, with that being said, and we talked about this, I believe, last week, both him and James Harden did not travel with the Houston Rockets to Orlando, as I just mentioned. It begs the question, and I'm speculating here. Does James Harden possibly did he come down with the coronavirus as well? Because don't quote me on it, but I'm almost sure that those two guys spent time together during this break.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
And James Harden's been out himself. We know he lost weight. He's posted some stuff where he's been out with some people. So that's something I'm just going to kind of monitor. This is big news, but it's not too big because, like I said, the plan is still for these guys to join the team in a little bit.
Yeah, I think it kind of caught me by surprise. First, I want to say, get well soon, Russ. I know you say he's kind of asymptomatic and stuff, but like you said, they're supposed to be joining them. Huh?
Where's the poster, by the way?
Oh, long story. We're gonna get into that later. Anyways, yeah. So shout out my guy Russ. Happy that you're doing good. But I think the speculation is kind of there, like you said. Russ and Harden both didn't travel, and they're both kind of on the same timetable to get back to Orlando at the same time. So I think there's a chance that he could. Like you said, the speculation is kind of there. I think with me personally, I haven't seen Harden on social media too much during this time. I know he kind of deleted his Instagram. I'm not sure how active he's been on Twitter. So it'd be interesting if he even comes out and does say anything. Like I said, he kind of hasn't really been on social media too much. So, Russ has kind of been there showing him protesting and stuff like that. So for him to come out and say it kind of wasn't too shocking. I mean, with just how active he's been on social media. But James Harden, like I said, hasn't really been out there. So I wonder if he even does post that he get there, if he has it. So he might just wait just to get to Orlando to say it, or maybe he lets the NBA come out with it. But I think it'd be interesting to see if he does have it, one, and two, if he does say anything before he gets back to the bubble.
Right. Now to move on from that, some other big news. Bradley Beal, the Washington Wizards are a team in the hunt to make the postseason. Bradley Beal, the team's best player right now, will not participate in the restart due to injury. They wanted to get him back as quick as possible. Just wasn't able to make it happen. It's pretty safe to say the Washington Wizards probably won't get in. And we bigged them up last time we talked about them. They're pretty fun to watch, even with the points they give up and everything. They're always high scoring games. But he's been on a tear with them. That's pretty much the reason why they're always high scoring games, because Bradley Beal's up there putting 20-something, 30 points a night. He's basically the guy, like, if they get in, he led them there. So that's not gonna be the case now.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's pretty safe that it's going to be a long shot for them to get in. Anything's possible, but like you said, Bradley Beal's kind of been putting them on his back this year without John Wall being there. So with him sitting out, I think it'd be really hard for them to make the playoffs. And Bartons is sitting out too, so that's two players for them right there. And are they 5 games back from
5 games back? 5 games back.
You got to be 4, so it's not that they still could do it, but I think, like you said, without Bradley Beal, who's kind of put them on their back, where's the scoring come from? Yep. How are they gonna make up for his 30 or 25 points a night? So I think it'd be pretty tough for them. I'd be kind of surprised if they do get in. So yeah.
Agreed. And talking about teams losing players, the Brooklyn Nets have lost about like half of their roster due to coronavirus. Spencer Dinwiddie, I believe, tested positive. DeAndre Jordan tested positive. There's another player in there who also tested positive for the coronavirus. But
Wilson Chandler just said he wasn't going. So
but I feel like there was one more player that did say that they said tested positive. I know Wilson Chandler said he just wasn't going.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the point is the Nets lost a lot of players.
And with that being said, they found a way to make some signings. Jay Crossover, Jamal Crawford is back in the league. It's long overdue. Somebody should have been signed this man a long time ago. Didn't he put up like a 50-piece last season for
Last
the
game,
Phoenix Suns?
yeah, final game of the season.
One of the greatest handles of all time was not in the NBA for almost its entirety. He's back with the Brooklyn Nets, as well as Michael Beasley, one of the most talented players I've ever seen, who's never fulfilled his talent, but we'll get into that another day. He's also there, a guy that's friends with Kevin Durant. The Brooklyn Nets, to be honest with you, you don't expect them to get out the first round. They're a tough team. That their best players are still out. You know, Kyrie Irving was the guy who was supposed to lead them this year. He's dealing with injuries. Kevin Durant hasn't played all season because he's coming back from that Achilles injury. So for these two guys who are very solid players, it's kind of like an audition for them for next season.
Yeah, definitely an audition for them for next season is kind of what I was gonna say. I just want to say I'm happy for both of them, two guys that you know probably should be in the league. Like you said, Michael Beasley, maybe one of the most talented guys who kind of maybe just ain't panning out, and then Jay Crossover, like you said, he had 50 last year. So both guys I think deserve to be in there. I think the Nets kind of made the best of what they were working with. Like you said, they lost a lot of players. No KD, no Kyrie, and then also just all the players they lost of coronavirus. I think Spencer Dinwiddie said that he's going to try to make it down there if he can. So that'd be a good person to get back for if they can. But I think bringing in two veterans, guys who kind of been there, done that, especially Jay Crossover getting back in the league. He, like you said, and both of them are trying to put on a show so they can get back in for next year. So I think two motivated people that's going to come in ready to work with that young team, because the team is kind of young over there without KD and Kyrie and DeAndre Jordan being there. So with that young team, bring some veteran leadership for them for this little playoff run. So I think who knows how well they'll be able to come back and play right off the bat. But I think by the time the playoffs start, those will be two guys you kind of want in your rotation, and two guys who really step up with the players that they're missing.
Two guys you want in your rotation that you expect to step up. Not only expect to step up, but believe that they will. And I think it's gonna who they even play who's the second seed in the East right now.
Toronto, maybe, I believe.
They could give. I wouldn't pick them to beat Toronto, but they can give Toronto some fits with those two guys and kind of everything that they have working with them right now.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, just two veteran leaders out there for them, and then Karis LeVert is still there too, who'll probably be that main go-to person. So, with those two guys out there, like I said, people who kind of been there and done that, kind of in this league. Michael Beasley, I think he went to the finals with the Heat in that last little final run there. So, two talented scorers who can come in. They're veterans. They're gonna know what to do, kind of how to get to their spots and stuff. So I think they definitely can help.
Yeah, absolutely. Just moving on from there. The biggest news I think that we've gotten out of all of this is Rajon Rondo is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a broken thumb. We kind of seen this already from him when he was back in Chicago in that postseason appearance that they had with Rajon Rondo, Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler. They were looking like they were about to sweep the number 1 seed Boston Celtics. He goes out with I'm pretty sure it was a thumb injury. It was either it was someone's hand, either a thumb injury or maybe wrist. You know, and we clearly saw the difference there. Now, I say all this to say, because we have talked about it on this podcast before. I believe for the Lakers to get a championship, Rajon Rondo is going to be the difference. I just mentioned what he did in Chicago. When he was with the New Orleans Pelicans after DeMarcus Cousins had went down, the job that him and Drew Holiday did on Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, you know, on the defensive end of the ball was just straight up immaculate. They straight up punked those dudes and go on to sweep the Portland Trailblazers that season. This dude in the postseason, they call playoff Rondo for a reason. He's a straight up assassin. He just rips defenses apart, whatever you're throwing at him. He's like a player's coach. And I thought let's be real. This was the whole reason the Lakers signed him last year to begin with, and then brought him back this season. Obviously, he hasn't had the best season, but like I said, my whole thing was always what he does in the postseason and maintaining that he probably will be that guy in the postseason. I believe that this is going to hurt the Lakers.
Yeah, I think it hurts the Lakers too. With Avery Bradley not being there too, to lose both of those guys, to kind of kind of coming off. Well, they lose those guys with Rondo coming off the bench. Like I said, I think KCP will kind of get the starting spot, so I don't think it's going to hurt him too much. But I think if that 6 to 8 weeks, if he can get back in time, kind of for like the playoff run, I think he'll probably maybe miss the first round. But if he can kind of get back for the second round and kind of on, I think they might be all right. Like you said, if playoff Rondo comes out, then the Lakers kind of have a great chance of making it to the finals. So I think if they can get him back, maybe in that by the time like the second round starts and kind of have him for that kind of stretch run towards the end, I think it might not be too bad. I think they'll be able to last through these last eight regular season games and maybe the first round of the playoffs without him. But I think after the second round and on, if they don't have him back, I think that's where they'll kind of miss him.
I think you don't want, because as it stands right now, they play the Dallas Mavericks in the first round. They should be able to get through the Dallas Mavericks. So although I'd probably pick them to beat the Dallas Mavericks in maybe 6 games.
6 or 7, yeah.
You think it go 7?
Maybe. I think it could. I can see the Mavs pushing them 7. Without Rondo, maybe.
I'm not giving Rondo that much credit. I love Luka. He's been in the MVP discussion, and you know, Kristaps Porzingis is a problem too. They got a good team over there. Rick Carlisle's the man, but 7 games, I don't know.
It's more of a Luka thing for me. I think Luka maybe can push him 7. Maybe. I'm saying maybe. I'll probably pick 6, maybe 5, but I can see it going 7.
I respect them enough to say 6 games. I don't know about 7, though. That's a little crazy, but I think they'll be able to get through them without Rondo just fine. It's when that second round hits and you're possibly playing the Houston Rockets that you would need a guy like Rajon Rondo if you're going to face the Clippers in the conference finals. Knowing how heated of a matchup that is, where you definitely need a guy like Rondo when opposing him is a Lou Williams or a Patrick Beverly, or even a job that he could possibly do on some mismatches, like maybe a Kawhi Leonard or things of that sort. That's really where you need a guy like him on the floor.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, just those matchups, I think I can see him kind of, going at Lou Williams, going at Reggie Jackson. Like I said, Rondo someone he's kind of like I was saying about Jamal Crawford and Michael Beasley. He's someone who's been there, done that. Rondo's been to 2 finals. That second finals, he's kind of almost like the best player. So and we kind of talked about him being playoff Rondo. So like I said, if playoff Rondo comes out, then like I said, he'll definitely be an advantage for them. But if they can get him back by the second round, kind of like you said, I believe they'll get through that first round without him. But like you said, with the Houstons, the Clippers, teams like that, they definitely need Rondo, especially without Avery Bradley being there. I mean, J.R. Smith would help a little bit, and so would Deion Waiters. But I think they'll definitely need Rondo, someone who's just going to make it easier for other people, especially in the playoffs. That's something that someone like Anthony Davis would definitely need, especially with Braun out on the court. So they'll definitely Rondo. Hopefully they can get him back soon. But I think if they can get him back by the second round, they should be good.
We'll wait and see. Like I said, 6 to 8 week process. I looked at that number early on because it's only about eight games left in the regular season anyway. So I looked at that number and I said, That I guess it was an immediate reaction to me. I was just like, whoa, that's going to hurt them tremendously. And it will hurt them. But, talking me off the ledge a little bit there, mentioning how quick he can come back. I know Frank Vogel came out and said he expects to have him in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
One good thing that could come out of this is that frees up more time for J.R. Smith or Deion Waiters. So both of those guys we kind of talked about the last episode about how they may be complaining about minutes and just how the rotation was going to work out. With Rondo being down, the one good thing about that is it frees up more minutes for those guys to kind of get acclimated with the team and kind of feel their way out.
Yeah, 100%. And with that being said, the other thing here, and I know you touched on this, and we talked about this before we came on here today. There's growing belief that Victor Oladipo is going to attempt to play in the NBA restart for the Indiana Pacers. According to Shams Charania of The Athletic, he's been fully participating in 5-on-5 scrimmages, and there's now optimism around his playing status per sources.
It's kind of exactly what I said. It's kind of not shocking to me, but for him to come out and before they went to the bubble and said that he wasn't going to play, I thought it was more on the being cautious side. But like I said maybe a few weeks ago, I think that you bring him down there, see how he see how his body reacts to the couple of training camps and things like that. I know they got a couple of scrimmages coming up against a couple other teams. So I think they should have waited into that process. Like I said before, you let it fill it out, see how his body's feeling, see how things go, and maybe you get him back out there after that. So I think if the reports are true, that just means that his body is reacting good and the things they see is good, which is a good sign. And I'm very happy for him if he can get back out there. But I think he maybe his post was a little too premature and maybe he should just waited a little bit. But I'm glad that he's out there. I'm glad that he's feeling good. Obviously, the reports means that sun's going good down there for him. So maybe something he kind of didn't expect. So things probably feel a lot better than maybe he thought it would be coming back. So I think that's a great sign for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the post being a little premature. It just didn't make sense to me that he said he was going to go out there, but he wasn't going to play. If you're not going to play, I don't see any reason. I know you talk about supporting your teammates. I just didn't really see it necessary for you to go out there if you're not going to participate. So it makes sense that there's growing optimism that he's going to play. And he's a guy that the Pacers just really need. He's stepped it up big time since he's been over there. They're they're competing for the third seed, ain't they? Or they're like a game. Miami's in fourth right now. I believe they're not too. They're right behind Miami's tails, but also they could fall to sixth with Philly behind them as well.
Yeah, I think they're in that mix somewhere around there. But if they can get him back, that's great. Like you said, he's been great since he got over there, and I think it's kind of confusing to me too for him to go down to the bubble and just not play. You know, him being a competitor and things like that. I think just sitting out there and seeing how things go, especially with him not being like 100% hurt, I think he definitely probably would have gave it a try. So I think just sitting there, he's probably like, yeah, too competitive to just sit on the side and watch how things are going.
Yeah, absolutely. I really ain't got nothing else for you guys this week, man. I think we covered everything that we need to cover. Cover your faces because things are getting good, but they still ain't great yet. So stop playing around. Make sure you keep a face mask on when you go outside if that's what you choose to do.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said. Like you said, the thing happened with Westbrook today, so it can happen to anybody. So that definitely, you gotta stay safe, mask up out there, and if you guys like the last episode we had for you, might have another special guest coming up for you guys. So definitely watch out for that.
Yeah, definitely. And this is one I'm excited for. Hopefully make sure that this one happens. But you go ahead.
You know, I'm definitely excited for this one. I'm definitely excited for this one.
Yeah, absolutely, big time. I'm praying we can get this one to fall through. So with that being said, man, thank you guys for tuning in again. This was your weekly rundown. We'll catch you guys next time.